Hey, would you do me a favor? Grab your phone or smart device and open up that camera. Then point it right here at the QR code. Do you have it? I'll wait a second. When you see the link pop up on your screen, give it a tap. You ready? Boom! Welcome to the Hillsborough County official YouTube channel. We've got all sorts of videos here, all about what makes our community such an awesome place. From local events and community highlights to what's in the perfect Cuban sandwich. We've got it all. We're always adding new things, so while you're here, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll never miss a new video. Here's that QR code again, just in case you missed it. Go ahead and check it out. Ooh. This must have fallen out of that video. This really is the perfect Cuban sandwich.
Welcome to a meeting of your Planning Commission. the official local planning agency for the cities of Tampa, Temple Terrace, Plant City, and unincorporated Hillsborough County. The Planning Commission provides innovative leadership and long-range vision that contributes to the creation of a thriving, prosperous community that offers opportunity, fairness, and choice in how we live, move, learn, work, and play. For more information about the Planning Commission, please call 813-272-5940. Follow us on social media or visit our website at planhillsborough.org.
Welcome to the February 12th, 2024 regular meeting of the Hillsborough County City-County Planning Commission. We thank you for attending this meeting. Your comments and participation are encouraged. For those attending in person and wishing to speak on any agenda item, please sign the register at the rear of the room and turn off any devices that may be a distraction. To minimize feedback in the audio, all online participants in the meeting will be muted until it is their opportunity to speak. Planning commissioners should unmute themselves to indicate that they would like to speak. Please be sure to state your name at the beginning of your remarks for the benefit of the clerk. There will be an opportunity for members of the public to provide comments. When your name is called, you will be unmuted when it is your turn to speak. Please wait until the chair calls on you to begin speaking. State your name at the beginning of your comments and adhere to the time limits. If anyone has difficulties or is watching via HTV and would like to provide comments to be included in the record for the local government hearing, please email them to planner@plancom.org. For action items, the meeting will be conducted as follows. The agenda item will be introduced. Staff will give their presentation with a 15-minute time limit. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. Following presentations, members of the public may address the Planning Commission when recognized by the chair. Public comment will be heard for 3 minutes per person. The applicant will be afforded a 3-minute period for rebuttal or response. Planning commissioners will ask questions. Public comment will be closed. Then upon a motion, a second, and discussion, a vote will be taken. With that introduction, I would ask you all to please join me in the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Would all please rise? Creator, we give sincere thanks for this opportunity to meet together and for the opportunity to come together for a common purpose. May we listen to one another intently with the goal of bettering ourselves and our community. May we humbly accept the responsibilities assigned to us, and may we carry out each of these responsibilities to the best of our capabilities. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty, and with that, I'd like to ask the clerk to please go ahead and call roll.
Good afternoon. Bowden?
Here.
Boza? Cardenas? Kona?
Here.
Fernandez?
Here.
Kress?
Here.
Lauk?
Here.
Soraya?
Here.
Sivan? Orton?
Here.
Rodriguez?
Here.
Joseph?
Here.
You have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. Next up, we have the approval of the minutes for the following meetings: the Hillsborough County Planning Commission regular meeting minutes, December 11th, 2023, the Hillsborough County Public Hearing on City of Plant City Amendments meeting minutes, December 11th, 2023, and the Hillsborough County Public Hearing on City of Temple Terrace Plan Amendments meeting minutes, December 11th, 2023. Oh wait, there's more. The Hillsborough County Planning Commission regular meeting minutes, January 8th, 2024. Hillsborough County Public Hearing on Hillsborough County Plan Amendments meeting minutes, January 8th, 2024. And the Hillsborough County Public Hearing on City of Plant City Plan Amendments meeting minutes, January 8th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. I reread all of those earlier today.
All right.
I'll second the motion.
All right, there's a motion of approval by Commissioner Kress, a second to that motion by Commissioner Bowden. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right, our first order of business, because we didn't have anyone sign up for the public input for items not scheduled on the agenda, is action item 3A, Plan Hillsborough 2020. Oop. Oh, hang out. We had somebody, I guess, who did sign up in the public inputs. All right. Then I will start with Jan Johnson. Is Jan Johnson on the line? Or in person? Nope.
There is no one on WebEx.
Okay. All right. Louise Jones. Is there a Louise Jones in person? All right. Well, there goes the public input. So we will move on to action items on the agenda. And the first action item is 3A, and Plan Hillsborough 2024 through 2029 Strategic Plan. And the presenter is Melissa Dickens.
You need to turn on your microphone, Melissa.
Thank you. And I'm, just one moment, I'm not seeing the presentation up here. No, you're good. Yeah, it's the top one. All right, thanks everyone for your patience. I think I can open it now. Okay, all right. Showing on the screen, all good to go. Okay, thanks again. Melissa Dickens, Planning Commission staff. So this is the second time you all have seen the strategic plan presentation. We're excited to be back in front of you. We have been out talking to the Transportation Planning Organization Board as well as the River Board and committees, and have an updated strategic plan for you all today for consideration for approval. The purpose of the strategic plan is really for the agency to focus its priorities in the next 5 years. The intent is for staff to get direction from all three boards to help us align workflow and resources. One thing that is important to note is this is an internally focused document, again, intended to provide direction to staff, and it's not regulatory and there's no fiscal impact. So some of the items that are in here may sound a bit like a comprehensive plan policy. If there's anything in here that ultimately gets implemented through a comprehensive plan, it would go through that normal plan amendment process. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Again, this document does not replace the mandated items of the three boards. It's intended to build on those items. It's intended to, where there is an opportunity for proactive planning, for us to be able to build upon these things that the agency is required to do and think strategically about how that building is done. Here's where we are in the process. You all provided us some great feedback at the board meeting in December. And we also, again, we're in front of the River Board, the TPO, and the committees. Now we're back here today for the final strategic plan adoption. There are still 4 pillars that are identified within the strategic plan. This is intended to outline the broad work of the agency across the Planning Commission, TPO, and River Board. And I'll go into a little more detail on these pillars and goals in the next few slides. But first, I want to pause and recognize some of the changes that we have made based on the feedback from you all as planning commissioners as well as the other boards. Overall, the reception that we got from the other boards was very positive. The River Board in particular was very pleased with it. But there were a few changes that we made as a result of comments. The first is strategy 1.2.1. So we wanted to clarify that strategy, and we've updated it to affordable and diverse housing options for all, to try to speak to some of the comments that were received back in December. Strategy 3.2.2, there was a request by the River Board TAC as well as the River Board to add in something to address waterfront development. So we have added that into the strategic plan. Strategy 3.2.3, we have updated to include some environmental and preservation language. That was also at the request of the Planning Commission in December. And then a number of other strategies have been streamlined or clarified throughout the editing process. And I will briefly go over these. I know you've seen them before, but the first pillar, the first goal, is all about connecting places and mobility, specifically about how are we addressing growth. This is all about multifaceted planning efforts, proactive planning opportunities, how to refine policies that encourage transportation safety and choice, and then specifically a little more under the purview of the TPO, innovative funding options and approaches for transportation improvements. The next goal is all about encouraging housing opportunities and choice. That first strategy is the one that was modified, protect and promote affordable and diverse housing for all. We also have a couple of other strategies in here about continually looking at bonus structures and incentives, and also continuing to work with the community and with developers to understand the market and how that influences the housing needs. The next pillar is all about how we connect with the community and with other stakeholder groups. The first goal is all about looking at how are we looking within Hillsborough County or interjurisdictionally, as well as from the local to the broader region. So that includes some strategies about joint planning efforts, things like Fowler that cross jurisdictional boundaries within Hillsborough County, and then also looking to opportunities to look beyond the Hillsborough County border to regional transportation and environmental initiatives. And then again, looking for those funding opportunities, exploring opportunities for regional projects to be very well positioned for those. The next goals under this pillar are all about making sure that the public is involved and engaged, looking for new ways to do that, making sure that they're engaged throughout all stages, and that it's done in a cost-effective manner. And then the second goal is about making sure that we're strengthening the existing relationships that we have and creating new partnerships with additional organizations and making sure that there's continual discussion with those partners and consistent communication. The third pillar is all about the resilient natural and built environment. And the first goal is all about resiliency. So that's resiliency within the comprehensive plan, strategies for managing development in the coastal high hazard area, and then looking to projects and studies that ensure communities are sustainable, livable, and healthy. The next goal under this pillar contains a couple of items that were updated. The first goal is updated to add industrial. That's something that we hear a lot about. It's something that we wanted to mention specifically within the strategic plan, but making sure that we're regularly evaluating all of those policies. The second was also updated at the request of the River Board. That is a new policy that they asked that we add. The third goal here is all about evaluating environmental and preservation policies within the comprehensive plan, again added at the request of the Planning Commission, and then looking at connections between the natural and built environment. And then finally, the fourth remains unchanged, but it's making sure to consider community context when conducting planning projects. And then pillar 4 is probably the most internally focused pillar. It's all about the internal administrative and financial processes, making sure that resources are aligned so that staff has the tools that they need to be successful at planning, refining best practices, looking at succession planning with a number of retirements, and then looking at opportunities to leverage emerging technologies for different approaches, things like AI, things like GIS, different ways that we can use technology to do better planning work. And this concludes really the formal part of the presentation. Your staff does recommend that you approve the resolution adopting the 24 to 2029 Plan Hillsborough Strategic Plan. And I am available for questions. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, we had one individual sign up virtually to comment on this. I'm just going to check with HTV to see if anybody's on the line. Is Kiana on the line?
There is no one virtually on WebEx right
All
now.
right, thank you. All right, so no public comment online. No one signed up in person. I will turn it over to the commissioners for questions, comments, discussions of this item. Commissioner Bowden.
Question, comment. What you mentioned, TPO had talked about funding options. Did they make any suggestions?
No, we didn't get into that. That was something that came out of the initial retreat. That was something that was important to some of the board members at the initial board retreat that was held over the summer, and something that we wanted to incorporate. But we didn't have any other discussions about what that might look like or how those could be structured. It was really just trying to make sure that projects are positioned for funding.
Okay. And the last thing that you mentioned about the creating regional connections, I think is great, especially when you start thinking about some of the things that are happening in Pinellas as well as Manatee County. So I think it's definitely a thing to do.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. I had a quick question on the 1.2.1, obviously the one that I aimed at last time. I noticed that we pulled back on I think there was a line the first time around about regional housing or something like that, or housing across the region or something. I was just wondering why it got removed in this go-round.
Yeah, so we looked at it again to try, that was something that we knew that, we should take a look at. And looking at that policy again, really within the Planning Commission purview, we have the most influence locally, and we thought, any regional collaboration could be implied, but that really we wanted to make sure that we were targeted and looking within our purview.
Okay, cool. That's what I thought, but I just wanted to make sure. And I thought pillar number 3, the public access to the waterfront, was an important addition too. I think that's something that we as an agency need to keep our eye on around here. So kudos on that.
Thanks. Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the commissioners? Commissioner Fernandez.
Yep, just a comment, and you've heard me say this before, but I see coastal high hazard, I see waterfront development, and not one word for flood zones. I mean, it's absent. It's always absent from these plans, so I just really wish we'd start focusing on that.
Yeah, and I think, I think that's a really good point. That's something that we're certainly hearing a lot about within discussions with the different jurisdictions. And I think, in our planner mind, maybe that would be captured under resiliency. But that's something that we certainly can keep in mind when we look at, the updates to the comprehensive plan.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Were there any other questions, comments, or discussion items from the commissioners? Not seeing any, then we'll go on ahead and close the public comment on this item and open it up to motions from the commissioners on this item. Commissioner Soria.
I'd like to move the motion forward to approve the 2024 to 29 plan, Hillsborough Strategic Plan.
All right, we have a motion of approval by Commissioner Soria. Is there a second out there? Commissioner
second.
Buzza. All right, we have a motion of approval by Commissioner Soria. Second to that motion by Commissioner Buzza. Are there any more comments, questions from the commissioners? Seeing none at this time, would all signify their approval by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Our next item up on the agenda, action item 3B, modified community redevelopment plan for the Channel District Community Redevelopment Area. CRA plan consistency finding, and the presenter is Emily Phelan.
Emily Phelan, Planning Commission staff. This is the modified community redevelopment plan for the Channel District Community Redevelopment Area. This was publicly initiated and reviewed by the Planning Commission, required under section 163.364 of state statutes. Originally in 2022, the CRA plan was amended and completely replaced. The proposed amendment today in front of you is to update section 11, which is the community development goals and objectives and tasks. This is being amended to keep up with the changing development trends within the CRA itself. And it includes goals that have been completed, and it also outlines goals for the future. Planning Commission staff reviewed this and found it consistent with multiple aspects of the comprehensive plan. The amendment continues to promote mixed-use infill development and transit-oriented development. It continues to utilize vacant or land, and also still reinforces housing opportunities and how important that is with Tampa's growing population. And with this, Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed modified Channel District CRA Community Redevelopment Plan be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. This concludes my presentation, and I will turn it over to city staff.
Good afternoon. Morris Massey with City Legal, and I also sit with the Community Redevelopment Board for the City of Tampa. One of the primary reasons why we're coming forward with this modified plan is that when we started trying to implement the new plan, one of the things that became very clear to us when you look at the goals and objectives policy statement at the end of the Community Redevelopment Plan, when it was redrafted, it refers to a strategic action plan. State law requires that all action that's taken by the CRA must be consistent with a community redevelopment plan. So we have to have sufficient policies, much like you do in your in the comprehensive plans for the different localities, to have something to say that what we are doing is consistent with the community redevelopment plan. We can't just defer everything to a strategic action plan. The strategic action plan should be much like our land development codes. It should implement the comprehensive or the community redevelopment plan in this case. So just wanted to clarify why we're coming forward with this today. It doesn't really change fundamentally a lot of what was intended with the update, but it's trying to put enough meat on the bone so that the community redevelopment plan can stand on its own. And when we take action, we can then identify what's in the community redevelopment plan that each action is tied to. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. All right. We didn't have anyone sign up in the public comment for this item, so I will turn it over to commissioners for questions. Comments, discussion items, going once, going twice. All right, then I will close the public comment on this item and open it up to motions from the commissioners on this item. Anyone? Commissioner Fernandez.
I make a motion to approve the modified community development plan for the Channel District community redevelopment area.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Fernandez, or motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Fernandez, second to that motion by Commissioner Kress. Any more questions, comments, discussion items from the commissioners? Not seeing any, then will all signify their approval by saying aye. 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 Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, next up, we are out of our action items. Everyone can relax slightly. Into our briefings and presentations, and the first one is 4A, Homegrown Hillsborough Community Food Assessment Map. The presenters are Lizzie Baker, Monica Petrella, and Stephen Fernandez. Dun, dun, dun.
I think I'm the shortest one up today, so. All right, Lizzie Baker, Planning Commission staff. So over the past year, I have had the absolute pleasure of working with Monica Petrella from Homegrown Hillsborough and the UF IFAS Extension Office of Hillsborough County, as well as Professor Stephen Fernandez and Varshini Renakunta, a graduate research assistant from the USF Master of Urban and Regional Planning Commission, to create a community food assessment map. So today I'll talk really briefly about the community food assessment. You'll hear from Monica about Homegrown Hillsborough, and then Professor Fernandez will provide an overview of the map and a demonstration. So a community food assessment is a really useful tool in food systems planning. It basically gives us a broad overview of a local food system in a given moment. So there's really no set way to accomplish this assessment. So we actually took a data-driven geospatial approach by creating a community food assessment map, or more simply put, a food systems map. And so this actually gives us an overview of the food systems in Hillsborough County, and it's broken down by components of the food system, all the way from production to waste. So moving forward, this map will be used to help identify strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities within our local food system. So for example, it could help identify disparities between access and availability of nutritious, fresh foods, or opportunities to improve that access. So this topic, as well as health and food generally, are really huge factors in someone's quality of life. So that's why we are excited to be involved in the Homegrown Hillsborough initiative. And with that, I will turn it over to Monica to talk about Homegrown Hillsborough.
Thank you, Lizzie, and thanks, commissioners, for allowing me to be here today. So my name is Monica Petrella, and I'm the Food System Coordinator for Hillsborough County Extension. For those of you that don't know, Hillsborough County Extension is a department within the county government, and it's also a state partnership with the University of Florida, IFAS. And so Homegrown Hillsborough is a fairly new initiative. We did launch last year. It's been in the works for a few years, but it's finally kind of started coming to life. And so what Homegrown Hillsborough is it is a network of organizations in Hillsborough County that want to use the food system as a tool for community development. So you can see on the graphic on the screen that, as Lizzie mentioned, it spans from production and goes through the process all the way through waste recovery, hoping that some of that waste that's been recovered can then go back into the food system, whether that is through compost or whether that is through redistributing excess food or any kind of other material that can then help us keep us resilient and kind of self-sufficient at this county level. And so the term food system describes the interconnected systems and processes that influence nutrition, food, health, community development, and agriculture. So that's a lot of different dynamics that each of them have their own, very specific niche in our community and the impacts that that they have on quality of life and a community's ability to thrive. And so this food system term is really referring to the ability to engage and utilize these different components in order to, like I said, improve our quality of life. So whether that is through nutrition education or localizing production or creating shorter distribution chains, so that way we don't have to import as much food, or introducing new marketing schemes, whether that is through the expansion of grocery stores or maybe even something called a healthy corner store, where we're partnering with existing infrastructure to kind of provide a short-term solution. And so all of this stuff is all kind of what is being encapsulated inside of Homegrown Hillsborough. And so I have the pleasure of being the coordinator, working with different organizations to understand what our visions and goals are and how our different organizations can work together to accomplish these pretty big goals. So last year we launched in April, and that was phase 1, which is the community engagement and data collection phase. And so basically we were just spending the whole year reaching out to stakeholders to ask them about the work that they do and then the vision they have for our food system. So do they want to eradicate food insecurity? Do they want to support local farmers? Would they like to see more regenerative farming? Do they want to help promote local food entrepreneurs? These are all different tasks that can be involved in this food system, and each of those things takes a different strategy and grants and resources and things like that. So we were basically trying to meet everybody where they are, ask about the work that they do, and understand their interest in being part of a network where we all work together. So I'm really, really pleased that the feedback was incredibly positive. We were able to interview over 110 stakeholders. So that means that over 110 organizations took out at least an hour of their time last year to sit down and talk with us about their vision and their goal and the work that they would like to do. Overwhelmingly, those responses were all very positive and excited about the idea of working in tandem with other organizations at this county level to really focus on our food systems needs and the things that we want to see and the things that we want to provide. In addition to the stakeholder interviews, so that's kind of the people doing the work, we also are actually still to this day, through the end of this month, administering a residential survey. And so the whole "if you build it, they will come" idea only goes so far. We want to make sure that the projects and programs and initiatives and campaigns and outreach opportunities, that those are actually meeting the demands of the residents that we all serve. And so once again, really delighted to say that we've had over 900 responses to better understand the community's appetite for food system programs and initiatives. And so that's things like, do you want to see a school garden in your school? Do you feel like you can afford afford to eat as healthy as you'd like? Just some kind of basic preliminary questions that can allow the network to better understand what our next steps are. And then lastly, part of phase one was the creation of this food system map. And this map is going to be incredibly useful when we actually start to hone in on those goals and those objectives and realize where we're starting and possibly what we might need. I believe in asset-based community development, which is the understanding that we have everything we already need, just a matter of getting it all connected. And so this map is going to allow us to look at our current landscape of our community and be more objective and not critical, but informed in our decision making. So this is a huge tool, and it's been really just incredible to see the vision come to life through Dr. Fernandez and Lizzie's leadership, kind of connecting all these different pieces. And so just to kind of help you better understand what the next year and then the year after that looks like is now that we better understand the different partners that are involved in this work, we're going through a phase of partnership development. So making sure that everybody is aware of each other, the work they do, the complementary aspects we could all have, and then start prioritizing. So do we want to do a farm to school program? Do we want to support local farmers? Do we want to see urban ag thrive? Those are all different goals. And then hopefully phase 3, which will be 2025, you'll start seeing these things come to life. You'll start seeing, more health literacy classes or kids learning how to grow their own food or more community gardens if that is what the community wants and the partners are able to provide. So it's really just an honor to be able to be here in front of all of you, work in tandem with Lizzie and the Planning Commission, and then continue to grow our relationship with MERP because hopefully throughout this whole process, we can develop the capacity we need to see this vision through. And so I think Dr. Fernandez is going to give a little demo.
Thank you, Commission. Stephen Fernandez, Urban and Regional Planning Program for University of South Florida. And I'm going to walk us through this map that my research assistant, Varshini, put together with the guidance of Monica and Lizzie behind me. We couldn't have done it without them. And, where's my link? There we go. So this is a web mapping application. If you've ever been part of a public agency, they have them for all kinds of topics. And this one centers on the Hillsborough, Homegrown Hillsborough Initiative and community for their network. This splash screen, as we get into it, sort of gives a little introduction, but also for novice users of a mapping system, we put sort of instructions on maybe how to use this, how to navigate around the map. And so this is, you have to click on this every time because we want to make sure that, like I said, if we even changed instructions, if we change layers, things like that would appear here. So once you enter the map, we have a few layers here that are showing up that we decided to start with. But up here, there's these things called widgets or, just links, if you will. And this here is our layer list. And these are the different categories that we put together from federal data, state data, county data, commission data, and even things Varshini might have mined herself or was provided by Monica or Lizzie. And so they're in these groups here. Now this one little tool, and I don't want to mess with the laptop here at the commission, but I'm going to collapse a bunch of these just so we can sort of see as you scroll through, depending on the topic, you have all kinds of other layers like our urban service area that just popped up in the background. You can turn anything you want on and off here. So I think there's a total of about 80 different layers on this map. And we have different tools. If you just want to see a legend, standard legend, you can see here. It's only going to show what's showing at the map on the map right now, like the food banks, the mobile markets, things of that nature. You can change base maps if you want to see an aerial photo behind this instead of a graphic map. So those are those sort of content widgets there. Over here, we put together a bunch of bookmarks, and this is a combination of the City of Tampa neighborhoods, city boundaries, Plan City, and then places throughout unincorporated Hillsborough County. So, for example, you can see it's quite a list. But if you're interested in a certain neighborhood or the team is studying a certain neighborhood, they can just go ahead, click on one, and it'll take them right there. And I'm not sure if you noticed, but other food source layers just popped up as I zoomed into the map. And so if I come over here to my layer list, other things have automatically turned on because I've navigated to a neighborhood. Now, one of the other really great parts of this tool. So, I mean, you can go around like any other map, click on something, and I'm hoping, people see, this is in the instructions, but just by clicking on that one point, I actually have 12 items, 12 different data items that popped up there. So we have different food distribution, some access, so there's probably a lot going on in that one building right there. But we have different restaurants, parcel-based data from Hillsborough County. And then if the user, doesn't want to click on everything individually, right, navigating through the map, we put together this report-style screening tool. And what you do with this tool, you can search by your address, or you can come over here to a draw. And let's just say I had a very specific area of a neighborhood that I wanted to map. I can either use a circle, but that's sort of like a buffer thing, but I can draw exactly where I want to analyze. Come down here, maybe say I was interested in this corridor right here. Double click on that, and you can run a report. And so any data item that's on this block will come up in here. And so this is just a quick summary, but now I can go ahead and print that. And basically have an entire report for my area of interest, telling me exactly the data layers that are in there, what the different food sources, production, and anything in there. And one thing I'm not showing here is there's also lots of census data in the background that's not turned on. I didn't want to crash the system too much being live, so I picked a lot of the point layers. But you can just go through the list and see everything that's in that neighborhood that I drew and get that report printed out. And you can do this from your phone. And you can also do it, again, if you're not into drawing anything, you can just click this icon here, and it'll take you exactly where you are. So there's that blue dot where I am. So if I'm not too great at maps, I can still do this and run a screening tool with those various options and start over. You can do as many as you want. Click start over here. Like I said, do a circle, do a point, select some things. But it's a really robust tool that you can use on your phone or desktop to really just centralize that data with the homegrown Hillsborough topics and layers of interest. So I really encourage you to explore this map. It's a fantastic resource for the types of data that is important to them. So that's it. I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. Good presentation. Are there any discussion items or questions from the commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Kress.
I don't know all your layers, but I wondered if this will be a tool for public, maybe food desert kind of thing. Would it make sense to add in a transit layer so they can have access?
So we have all the HART stops, all the HART
Awesome.
routes, the transfer stations, bike lanes, sidewalks. It's all
You're
in
on
there.
it.
It's I didn't want to. I know I'm on the clock, but yeah, they're in. There you go.
believe you.
Access,
I
transportation.
believe
Yep. I'm trying to think of some other creative layers. That were important. Other than the. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. We also have. We also do have the census tract food desert layers in there too.
Right.
Yep. So they're there. Yeah. There's a lot. I definitely implore you to check it out.
And just someone earlier today, I just downloaded the app called Too Good to Go. You know about that too? Okay.
I didn't.
It's.
They do.
I guess it's restaurants that are selling food that they would otherwise maybe throw away at a reduced cost. They'll try to get cut down on food waste.
Yeah.
So.
That's great.
All right. Are there any other questions? I had a quick question for food pantries. Well, just in general, I bring up food pantries because I know they change location a lot. I've had people who do research on those, and the data is constantly changing. So I'm wondering how often this data is going to be looking at getting updated, and who is going to be doing the updating.
Yeah, and so that's kind of based on what this next year, if food access becomes kind of our top priority, then I think that you'll see more resources into investing in things like this, making sure it's up to date, maybe solidifying our partnership with MERP in order to have continually new graduate students or internships or some kind of professional development, if that's kind of where our community decides that's our priority. Most of the people that I work with, food access is their priority, so I wouldn't be surprised if that is something that comes up, but we'll discover that throughout the rest of the year.
All right, very good. Ms. Ornita.
And is the web app access through the Homegrown Hillsborough website?
Yeah, and so I think it might still need to be added to our website, but I think it's on the Planning Commission. Not yet. Okay, so very soon we're getting published on both Homegrown Hillsborough and I think on the Planning Commission website. And we're also like, this is for everybody. So if other people want to embed it, share it, all of that, then the more the merrier.
All right. Are there any other, Commissioner Soria?
One question I had was, is the public able to add information like something like a private entity is like a private enterprise is doing it, but it's not on a public portal yet, but that's essential to the map that the public can use. Is there a way for them to add the information themselves as well?
I think in the future, yes. Right now, this was kind of just to get that original snapshot and kind of see where we are, then use this tool throughout the next year to further refine our goals. And so, like I said, we have already kind of started discussing what a more long-term partnership could look like. And so I'd imagine that something like that, as new businesses come online or close, or new organizations that want to be a site for healthy education, things like that, then I'd like to think that this can be like an ever-evolving, dynamic process.
Good to know. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks.
All right. Were there any other comments or discussion items from the commissioners on this one? Not seeing any, then we'll thank you for the great presentation. We will move on to our next item of business. Item 4B, Access 2050 Long Range Transportation Plan Survey, and the presenter is Dr. Johnny Wong.
Good afternoon, commissioners. How are you all? All right, well, thank you for that intro. I am Johnny Wong. I'm the TPO Executive Director. I'm here to present you with our Access 2050 survey, which will inform development of our update to the Long Range Transportation Plan. The TPO worked with Planning Commission staff to forecast population and job growth through the year 2050, and then project the transportation needs of the community, recognizing that by 2050, we're expecting to have more than 2 million people in the county. The feedback that we hope to receive from this survey will help identify the most urgent needs to be addressed, and really kick it to the community to help us figure out how transportation investments can be funded. The LRTP, at least in my view, is partly a technical document which forecasts specific highway, transit, safety, congestion, trail, infrastructure needs. It's also partly an engagement document. We really rely on individuals that live, work, and play here to help us prioritize the investments and the needs. And keeping in mind that everything in the plan must be cost feasible, we really rely on the public to help us determine which of these needs, because there are so many, should be elevated toward the top of that list. As in, where should we really prioritize investing our money in all of the proposed projects that can address some of the needs. I'm not going to spend a ton of time walking you through the survey. In your packet, you should have access to it via QR code. It's also available on the website at access2050.org. I'm going to quickly breeze through a couple of these slides to give you a little familiarity with it. And at the end, I'll be asking you to, in essence, serve as spokespeople for it. And so I hope that you can again, gain a little bit of familiarity with it and potentially answer any questions if folks come to you. So this is the exact copy of the presentation that we'll be taking out to the public. In fact, by now we've already started. The survey's been live since the end of January, and we're expecting that it'll run until early April. Again, accessible via the QR code on the screen and at access2050.org. So when you hop onto the survey, there are 5 screens, all color-coded. The first one is just an intro welcoming them to take the survey and explaining what the basis is. The LRTPs provided a little bit of background information on what purpose it serves and how often we update it. The priorities is the first really material aspect of the survey. It's one of the 3 important ones, at least in my opinion. So when you go on to the priorities screen, The priorities that are listed here roughly correspond to transportation project types, which are eligible expenditures for the federal, state, and local dollars, federal and state dollars being some of those that the TPO has authority or discretion to program. And so we're asking folks to take a look at each of the priorities listed on this screen, drag them above that dotted line in order of what their own personal priorities are. And so you see the ones on the screen are reduce crashes, related to infrastructures, maintain and repair roads and bridges, reduce traffic jams, new faster transit service, improve existing bus service, build more trails and side paths, and then extend or add lanes to major roads. The second material purpose of the survey is to collect feedback, really testing the temperature of the public about which funding sources should be explored to pay for all of the needs that will kind of like come out through the survey process. Beginning with the community investment tax, or the CIT. There's a lot of conversation about this across the county. The BOCC has discussed potentially putting this on the ballot ahead of time, but it expires in 2026, and so we're asking the public to evaluate whether or not this source of revenue should be continued, if it should be renewed at the existing half-cent, if it should be renewed at a higher rate of 1 cent, or if we should just allow the half-cent tax to expire. The second important question about funding is related to the local option gas tax. The local option gas tax is currently 7 cents a gallon, and that expires in 2042, still within the horizon time frame of the LRTP, which is out to 2050. So we're looking well out into the future, but we should start having those conversations about what do we do with it when it expires. Should we allow that 7 cents per gallon tax to expire? Should we maintain it at the existing rate, or should we bump it up to 12 cents a gallon? Next is transit service property tax. This mostly relates to HART levying a tax for folks that are based on assessed home value. And so some of the conversations that we've had with HART are about whether to maintain the tax at 50 cents per $1,000 of assessed home value, increasing it to $1 per $1,000 of assessed home value, or increasing it to 3 mills, which would be $3 per $1,000 of assessed home value. Next would be, next is some questions pertaining to the topic of managed lanes, or express toll lanes to be a little bit more specific. There have been conversations lately about whether or not to manage highway lanes, like limited access facilities on I-275, I-4, and I-75 using either a static or a dynamic tolling model. And so we're seeking public feedback on that as well. And then some of these others are beyond the discretion of just our county. A lot of these revenue sources that you see on slide, or the 5th screen on the 3rd slide, would be outside of Hillsborough's control, would require legislative approval in most instances, but still we're seeking your feedback just to know whether any of these have a little bit of support. And then the last material slide is related to major projects. We have a ton of proposed major projects that we've solicited from our local governments. Some of the conversations have been led by members of the TPO board and also some members of the public. We've broken them down into 4 categories just to ease you through leaving your feedback on all of these. So the categories are described in the legend, and they're broken down as follows. Highway widening projects, anything that occurs on a highway that adds capacity, whether that be an extension or a widening. Next, elevated or managed lanes on limited access facilities, thinking of projects like the Selman, which is an elevated highway. Managed lanes, like I mentioned with I-275, 75, and 4. New transit facilities operating in their own fixed guideway, and new or modified interchanges. I'm not going to go through all these because there are 23, and that would take quite a bit of time. Our hope is that folks will kind of hone in on the projects that will impact them, either near where they live or where they work or their commuting route. I'll just quickly cruise through all of these. Like I said, they're broken down into 4 categories. The first is yellow, and those are interchange improvements. Next are transit, fixed guideway transit operating in its own right-of-way, and these technologies could include bus rapid transit or rail service, managed lanes on limited access facilities like I-275, Gandy Bridge elevated, the elevated portion of the Gandy Bridge, Suncoast Parkway, I-75, I-4, and the southern portion of I-75. And then lastly, the highway capacity projects, either widenings or extensions. 275 from Hillsborough to Bears, US 301, the portion that would connect the Selman Expressway down to Big Bend Road, Baum Road, Lithia Pinecrest, SR 60, CR 39, and US 92. The last slide of the survey is intended to collect some demographic and geographic data. We will be collecting this data and doing a preliminary analysis along the way to kind of track our feedback. If we see that we're not getting in touch with a certain part of the community, this gives us ample time to respond and react. And so we want to distribute the survey very widely. We also want to make sure that we're getting in touch with all of the different diverse communities across Hillsborough. And so our goal is to make sure that we at least attempt to get this survey in the hands of every single person in Hillsborough County. We're offering some incentives to encourage higher response rates. We're offering for folks that leave their email and take the survey, concert tickets, some big names, Bad Bunny and Kane Brown, Bucks tickets for the 2024 season, gift cards, and then there's some family packs as well, like Mosey and some others that we chose not to include on the slide. Like I mentioned, the timing of this, we've already launched. I think we're in our second week where the survey's live, collecting responses. It'll run until the second week of April. When the survey wraps up, we will provide preliminary analysis to our TPO board and then do a deeper dive on the survey responses and present those to the board sometime around July. Those responses will inform the cost feasible plan. We hope to have that done around August or September. That should be fairly close to what the final version will be. We're going to allow the public to review it for 1 month before it goes to the TPO board for final approval on October 16th. The reason why I'm briefing you all today is because we could really use your help. You can help us by sharing this on social media, professional, business, personal accounts, pushing this out, really encouraging folks to take it. If you would like to lead with the incentives, I find that those always help. Folks are much more likely to take the survey if they know that they're going to win tickets to Bad Bunny, Kane Brown, or to see the Bucks. Also, if you have suggestions for a community group that you would like us to reach out to, we will not say no to any group. And so if you are part of a neighborhood association, community group, 4-H, whatever, send us an email at planner@plancom, and we'll connect from there. And again, if you have any suggestions, we would prefer that you use planner@plancom. You can also get in touch with me or transmit those to Melissa Zornita, and then she'll transmit those to me. That's it for my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Are there any comments? I see Commissioner Kress moving.
I'm sorry that I haven't taken the survey yet. Just a couple comments. I think it's really helpful for people to understand kind of the financial magnitude of some of those questions you're asking. So if you have a way to equate a rise in property taxes would be a cup of coffee a day, or whatever those are, I think it's kind of hard to vote on to tax yourself and not have really any sense of what that might mean to the average person, rising gas tax, et cetera. So I suggest you include that as much as you can.
Yeah, the good news is that on that slide, specifically about the taxes, if you click on the little gray button that provides a little bit more info, we have calculated those figures out based on median income for a family of 4 in Hillsborough County. That doesn't pertain to everybody. Some folks will be paying more, some less, but gives you kind of like a threshold by which to evaluate what the impact would be on yourself.
Great, thanks.
Commissioner Bowden.
Yeah, as you were going through the different modes of transportation, I didn't see any, did you think about the ferry potentially?
Yes, the ferry was not requested to be explored because that project has already been evaluated as part of our transportation improvement program. For the most part, these projects that we're testing are new. Anything that is in an existing planning document, like the 2045 long-range plan or the existing transportation improvement program, there's really no need to test them because we already know that they have public support, we know how they perform, and we know what they'll cost. The projects that we're seeking feedback on now are projects that, we're looking for the public and our board members to say, yes, we'd like to evaluate these further, and then we can take those forward to the next steps.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yeah, I had a similar comment about sort of explaining to people what these different funding sources are. Like the CIT, it just says it's been around since 1996, but it'd be good to know what it's so vague on it funds community projects benefiting education, public safety, and transportation. That's very, very vague. And I'm just thinking half-cent sales tax, this fund must be huge, right? Because, I mean, I don't know my numbers perfectly, but millions and millions of dollars was collected with the half-cent when we had it for a year or so. So it'd be that size of a, fund, it would be really good to know what it's doing, not just education and public safety. And I think that goes for a lot of these here when it comes to funding. I did check out the gray arrow about how much per year, but I just think, like, I'm a planner and I'm like, huh? So I just think it needs more explanation.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. I can definitely understand, and the decision-making calculus for each of us is going to vary somewhere between I don't need that much information to decide, and folks that want to know what the impacts would be from a million different directions. The challenge that we face is like the screen real estate, and so we kind of erred on the side of not giving too much information and confusing folks. What I will say is that the results of the survey are not going to commit any board, any local governing body to any decision. It's simply to help inform. And with the BOCC weighing out whether or not to add the CIT to the ballot, they're going to be doing the same thing in complementary workshops. They're going to be having their own public meetings to discuss it. So we're testing the temperature now. It's very preliminary, and we didn't want to go overboard with the information, but I can understand that some folks would want more.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Kona.
Yeah, thank you. Is there a goal for the amount of survey results you're looking for?
Not really. No, there's no stated goal by the TPO board. My personal goal would be to see 3,000. I think that would be a really good response rate. We did a similar survey initiative back in 2018. It was regional, but we led it, and we got more than 11,000 responses. That was like all hands on deck across Pinellas, Pasco, and Hillsborough. What I think would be achievable is like 2,000, 3,000, I think is ambitious, but I'd like to see us deliver that number.
One final question, if I could, Mr. Chair. Are you including the school's potential taxes in there as well, as far as their, I think they have a half-cent as well, and then I think a millage, potential millage, is that included in the survey?
No, it's not included in the survey, just the 5 that I discussed in that fifth screen of the funding. It had 5 different options that are outside of our discretion, but no, we didn't include the schools. I'm sorry.
I think I saw Commissioner Soria moving over there.
Yes, I had a couple of questions. Now the survey is definitely easy. I just finished it right now. I didn't even know about it until today, so that's definitely good. And main question was reaching the people. So is there like a specific budget, like how much you want to spend, or like, let's say, if you reach 10,000 people, and then you mentioned like, 3,000 would be a great number. Like if we can reach like pretty much everybody, or everybody gets to know about it, based on that, like would a budget would be is there some kind of budget that would help, or?
We do have a budget that we've been using for a consultant to help us develop the survey and some other public engagement tools. The budget constraint that we're facing is personnel budget for staff time, because every time that we need to go out to a community event to publicize this and, basically tell folks that the survey exists and what it's about, then we have to have staff attend it. We're trying to be as efficient as possible, really relying mostly on social media to publish it, but also relying on you all's networks. That's a really low-cost way to publicize and push the survey out. The community groups or the community meetings that we attend in person, they're limited because of staff constraints, personnel constraints, but also it's really difficult to get on an agenda for some of these groups. They meet maybe quarterly, and so we have one shot. But we're doing our best.
That's true. And another question is, since it's 2050, like even if there's a billboard I see 2050, I'd be like, I'm not going to live in Florida for 2050 or Hillsborough. I'm not even sure, so it doesn't pertain to me. So what are one of the challenges that you perceive, like people not taking the survey at all?
I would say that the goal for any public engagement survey is to allow folks to complete it within 2 minutes. 2 to 5 is ideal. Beyond 5, the response rates just drop off very significantly. And so there may be some folks that hop onto the survey, they see that it's difficult or that it's a little bit more time consuming than they expected, and they may just stop right dead in their tracks. The other folks, you know, we've tried to accommodate for many of the challenges that we foresee by translating into Spanish. We have a paper version, an online version. We can even take responses over the phone if folks just want to call us. So we would try to proactively address a lot of those. There are always going to be challenges, just that like there are so many surveys that we receive being in this space and limited amount of time to complete them all.
And as you mentioned, if there's a comment like to include a community or something, just best to email that address on the leaflet or the website, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kress.
I think you gave us an abbreviated version of the survey, but I didn't notice anything specifically targeted for people walking and biking and improving those conditions.
Yeah. Those projects will be tested in a different way than the major projects will. I'm going to have to veer into like a little bit of a technical conversation with you. I know you've served on TPO committee, so some of this will sound familiar to you, but the needs assessments that we've done related to infrastructure, Vision Zero, real choices when not driving, we test the amount of investment level based on desired performance. Whereas the major projects, those investments have to be tested against a specific cost estimate. And so it's also very important for us to get feedback on the funding buckets, but it's critical for us to get feedback on the major projects because those have to be line itemed in the LRTP. For a specific safety project that a local government wants to fund, those don't have to appear with specificity in the plan. We kind of allow the local governments to exercise discretion over which safety projects they want to move forward.
So if I'm an outsider looking at this, I go to a neighborhood meeting, I'm going to think you don't care about people walking and biking at all because I don't see that in the survey. So I wonder if there's an option. I know it's probably too late now, but is there an option to build out the regional trail system? And that's like a major project. You know what I mean? I feel like I saw some transit and a lot of road widening. So and I know that's not consistent with your priorities and your team's priorities. So I know you have a lot of technical things to balance, but I'm just kind of letting you know what I saw today.
Yeah, we will have those conversations, and we're actually getting ready to start having that type of engagement around what the optimal performance level is for state of good repair, Vision Zero, real choices, and smart cities. But it's not really amenable to the survey instrument. And so we're going to schedule meetings with the cities, Hillsborough County, Hart, THEA, Port Airport, and community groups if they'd like to have those conversations too, but really asking them what's their desired level of performance. And the priority screen will give us an indication, because if we see a lot of people are saying that we really value safety above all else, well, that tells us that a greater portion of our revenues should be devoted to those types of projects.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess just make sure it's clear to people that it's on another plan or whatever you want to say. But again, if I'm just looking at this as an outsider, I'm going to think, well, I guess we don't care about that. So
yeah, gotcha. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. All right. Are there any other comments, questions from the commissioners? Not seeing any at this time. Well, thank you for the great presentation, and we will move on to our next item of business, which is number 5, the Executive Director's Report. And the presenter is Melissa Zornita.
Good afternoon, Melissa Zornita, Executive Director. Since we arrived at my report a little bit earlier in the day, I thought I'd maybe take a minute and update you on a number of projects that we've been working on, many of which show up in the list here, but just to give you a little bit more detail on a few of them. So a number of the meetings that myself or staff have attended over the last month relate to the City of Tampa's comprehensive plan update. The focus has been on the land use element, and there's quite a bit of interest by the folks, particularly in the neighborhoods. In Tampa, they've got the Tampa Homeowners Association of Neighborhoods, THAN, and they are very active in participating in, and we've had a lot of really productive meetings with them, understanding their concerns, particularly related around increasing density in neighborhoods along major corridors, how we can better address that. A number of the strategies that we've been looking at in the City of Tampa relate to making some density bonuses available, trying to incentivize the density to go in the right locations, as well as incorporating some public benefit to it coming, as opposed to they just come here and they ask for a plan amendment and the density gets increased and there's not really any surety that there's going to be a set aside for affordable housing, or that they're going to locate and develop in a way that's complementary to transit. So trying to address some, getting some public benefit along with those. A report in response to some questions council asked back at a workshop last fall will be presented to council this Thursday. It was supposed to be 2 weeks ago and got continued. In the coming months, we'll have a briefing on those strategies for you all. But there is quite a bit of work being done on trying to get some consensus around the strategies and which ones would work before we put them into the draft. Another major area that we've been working on is this report that the Board of County Commissioners has requested related to urban or expansion areas, expanding the urban service area. And as you all saw in the policies at your hearing on January 22nd, there are 2 ways that that can occur. One is through somebody coming and asking for a plan amendment to expand the urban service area, which we interestingly have received, I believe, 4 privately initiated plan amendments to expand the urban service area in the last month. And then the other approach is that we proactively identify some expansion areas. So Commissioner Myers asked us to identify some areas for that. We've been working with the county staff on that, and then our GIS team has been doing a series of maps looking at different indicators that might help us in looking at the rural area to identify those areas that make sense for the growth to move in, perhaps along the I-4 corridor and the State Road 60 corridor are 2 areas, Waimama and the area designated as RP2 in the Balm area are 2, and then the Little Manatee South area, which is the area south of the Little Manatee River between that and the Manatee County line, west of I-75, to be clear, the Sundance communities east of 75, and they would be very upset to hear if they were in the line of this. Those are the 4 areas that are rising to the top as we look at this. We will be presenting that to the board on March 19th and see what direction they would like to move forward in. All of the privately initiated requests that we have received to expand the urban service area are in the Waimama community. So I think that area probably rises in priority because that if those parcels come out of the WVR2 land use category and what was set up in that community plan kind of fractures what the community put together. So I think we fairly quickly need to figure out what the path forward is for that area. Another study that is coming to conclusion is our Fowler Avenue Vision Study. We had a meeting with the Technical Advisory Committee at the end of January and got some good feedback on the vision that's been articulated for that area. We're now working with the consultant on drafting comprehensive plan amendments that would then come forward in the county and the city of Tampa's comprehensive plans in the coming months. We've been working in Plant City and had a great meeting with Bill McDaniel, the Plant City city manager, last week on the Northeast Master Plan update. You all have seen a lot of plan amendments in that area of Plant City. And so Plant City definitely is feeling the pressure in that area. Some of those plan amendments have gone in a different direction than the master plan originally laid out. So we're truthing that up and looking at other areas that we might need to proactively give some different direction based on what some of those plan amendments that have occurred. There will be a public meeting on that. It'd be good for me to have the date here. I think it's, I don't want to say the wrong date. You don't know what date it is, do you? The Plant City Northeast Master Plan meeting? Okay, I'll let David look it up, because that'd be good to announce. It is the last week of February, I know that, I just don't want to say the wrong date. And let me flip back to my notes here. So in addition to those major projects, I have been asked to make a number of presentations to groups like the Tampa Connection, Leadership Tampa, and we've had great participation in a number of community meetings and forums. And I mentioned the plan amendments. Oh, at the bottom of my page, we have updates on a couple of plan amendments. The environmental and mobility sections of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan became effective at the end of January, so I'm pleased about that. And Plant City did adopt one plan amendment that was at Swindell Road that staff and the Planning Commission had found inconsistent. A couple of updates on contracts. One of the items listed was a meeting that we had with the Florida State Department of Urban and Regional Planning. They're going to be assisting us with some updates to the future land use map for the unincorporated county. They're going to be doing that in the summer and fall of this year. They're also going to be partnering with USF, who I believe is hiring a planner in residence, though I don't know that they've announced who it is yet. Oh, okay, darn it. Hoping I'd find out. And then setting up, hopefully, that the USF, Masters in Urban and Regional Planning program, with their planner in residence, would then be able to take on updates to the future land use map for the city of Tampa. So that's the idea there. Thank you. Okay, the Plant City meeting is February 29th from 5:30 to 8:30 at Plant City City Hall. The other contract that we're working on is we've received proposals for a communications audit to be done. I think I mentioned last month that Lynn Miranda, who was our long-standing public information strategist, has retired, and so we see an opportunity to kind of do an assessment of our public engagement and our communications products, and use that information to help shape the hiring for her replacement. And so we have gotten proposals, I believe now, from 5 different firms about that, and we'll be making a selection for that contract. Both of those contracts will be under the $50,000 limit, so they do not have to come before the Planning Commission for approval, but I wanted you to be aware of them. Okay, 2 more items. In the middle, the lower middle of the sheet are some dates for a possible Planning Commissioner retreat. And since we have a moment, I'm going to ask you to, if you have your calendar, look at it and tell me if any of those dates work for you for us to have a half-day retreat. It would not be the entire day. We would either end at lunch or start with lunch.
I could just say right off the bat, April 3rd, I'm presenting at the History Center, so that won't be out for me.
Okay.
Friday, March 22nd. That's my vote.
That's good. Okay.
March 26th for me, yes.
Okay. Does the 22nd really work for most people?
Me, yep.
In the morning? Okay. Anyone that has a conflict with the 22nd in the morning?
Was it 26th or 22nd?
22nd, what I heard. Okay. All right, well, we're gonna, with most of y'all here today, I'm gonna lock in March 22nd in the morning. And a couple of places that I've thought of as potential locations, going out towards Commissioner Buzza, the Strawberry Growers Association has a facility off of I-4 that has a nice meeting space in it. In the city of Tampa, the new Tampa City Center has a really nice community room. Karen's offering the space.
I was gonna mention that morning as part of March being Florida's Bike Month, it's the Temple Terrace Bike with the Mayor in the morning, so we could all do that and then find a space in Temple Terrace as a suggestion.
Okay.
I think it ends by 9 a.m.
Right.
It's an earlier thing.
Yeah, it is okay.
And I'm happy to lend bikes, whoever needs one.
Oh, look at that. That would be pretty cool if we had a large contingency there. Okay, we can look in the more Temple Terrace area. Any other suggestions of locations or preferences? Okay. Okay. I will check out what's available. That will be the other key. Great. The last thing I wanted to mention is that in the next couple of weeks, you'll receive an email from Tracy's office with materials related to the executive director's review. As a part of that package, I'm going to provide some information from sort of a one-page summary of our annual report, as well as sort of a self-evaluation that is responsive to some of the feedback that occurred last year, that you all could use some more information about what is done within the organization, since you're only here, for the most part, one day a month. So just be on the lookout for that. If there's anything that as you get that package you have questions about or that you think would be helpful, please let me know. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Commissioner Lauk.
Given some of the discrepancies between our findings, staff's recommendation, city staff recommendations, I think we've had at least a couple of instances. That item on February 7th caught my eye and ear.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a timeline expressed in terms of when they want to move forward with the revised comprehensive plan, or is it just in discussions at this point?
So what will be presented to the public are 3 scenarios that have been worked on with a technical working group. After that, what we discussed with Mr. McDaniel was having some one-on-one briefings with the City Commission and then having a workshop or a presentation to the City Commission for them to give us some feedback in late March or early April. So then once we've gotten all of that, I think we'd be in good shape to move forward with the appropriate amendments to the comprehensive plan. They don't want to wait too long. We are fortunate that, for example, next month, there is not a public hearing on Plant City or Temple Terrace comprehensive plan amendments. You'll just have your regular meeting. So there's a little bit of a dip right now, and we're trying to take advantage of that and hopefully get this done so that it can be a part of one of the next plan amendment cycles.
That's great. It's good to hear there's somewhat of a sense of urgency to address the issue. Just based on the things that we've seen in the last few cycles with them, it feels like maybe the plan has run its course and isn't consistent with what's happening on the ground.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? I had a couple questions.
Sure.
Tampa future land use policy updates. Has there been any sense of what city, because I noticed there weren't many city council discussions on the list. There's a lot of discussions with staff and various neighborhood groups, city staff and various neighborhood groups, which is good, but obviously the decision makers are pretty important too. So I'm just wondering, has there been any sort of discussion there or?
Yeah, there was a workshop with City Council back in the fall, and as a part of that, they raised a number of issues that either they had questions about or they wanted us to do some investigating on the best approach on. I would say there are about 12 items on that list, and that is what will be presented back to them on Thursday. It's on their consent agenda, but we're anticipating having to be prepared to answer questions and get some additional feedback from them. So it is a feedback loop continually with them.
All right. And I saw a review revised language for the One Water Plan Amendment. What was that about?
Oh, yes. I'm glad you brought that up. So when we went to the so there's an amendment to the One Water language about extension of water and sewer lines into the rural area that was proposed. When we brought that to the Board of County Commissioners in mid to late December for a workshop, they asked for some revisions, namely to see if there could be some additional flexibility on some of the strict criteria. So we've been working with the the Utilities Department, Development Services Department on this language. We have a revised draft that I believe was added to our website on Friday. There will be a virtual public meeting tomorrow and evening, and then staff is also, we've heard a number of concerns from the Keystone community, and so staff will be going out to Keystone on Thursday to talk to them about that. That will come back for a public hearing in front of you all in April.
Okay. And the last question I had was on Flip Junior 2024 logistics meeting with the Tampa Heights Junior Civic Association. How'd that go? You know, I'm big on the Flip and Flip Junior,
Yes.
so I was just wondering how that went.
It went great. They are, the Tampa Heights Junior Civic Association is focusing most of their summer camp efforts in Tampa Heights at one location, but they have a relationship with the Boys and Girls Club and Town and Country, who will be taking over some of that summer camp that was occurring out there, and they've agreed to continue to allow us to do an hour of programming for each week for 6 weeks out there, which was important to us to continue to hit both of those communities that we've been involved in. So yeah, it went great. Bryn Dauphiné, who is the Community Relations Coordinator, has taken over the planning for both Flip and Flip Junior, and very excited about the plan she has in place. And we'll probably be reaching out to some of you all. Commissioner Sarah, you joined us at the airport last year. Commissioner Joseph, you've been at a lot of them. Commissioner Rodriguez always makes a presentation about planning at the Air Force Base. Commissioner Kress, hopefully you've got a project you'd like the kids to work on again. Okay, definitely if anybody wants to participate in the two programs, we welcome it.
And don't forget Commissioner Fernandez. He was the big star last year with his GIS lab.
I know, yes, and I think Professor Linkus was hoping you might be able to show off some drone stuff this time, so. Okay, so we'll see.
We have a Google card too now.
Ooh, even cooler. Oh my gosh. So yeah, we've got a lot of great options and really appreciate your all's support and participation in those programs.
All right, good job, thank you. Are there any more questions for her? Yeah, Commissioner Fernandez.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to go back to the Plant City thing, but I just had a curiosity question. It seems like that Northwest is annexing land and very strange meandering border up there. I'm curious, maybe you can explain, is there this Hillsborough County, because the residents come in droves saying they don't want what's going on. Yeah. But then I'm starting to notice a pattern of annexation, ignoring, the commissions. So I'm just curious, do you have any insight on why sort of Hillsborough is pushing back on annexation, or just it's just like growing like an amoeba out into the north there?
So Plant City generally is focused on voluntary annexations, so it is when a property owner wants to come in. And the major incentive that they have to come into the city is that if they're in the unincorporated area, they're on well and septic tanks. If they want central services, they need to come into the city. A number of the items where there's been some disagreement have been over the allowance of industrial, particularly north of I-4. And so I think what we're hoping with this update is to provide, sort of some boundaries of where, now that certain things have gotten adopted, where that's appropriate, and then where it's not, and where to realize the vision of having a village, which is what they sort of envisioned up there, as having a town center and a lot of residential development. You have to have some rooftops to realize some of that commercial and the town center component of it. So at a certain point, if it gets too lopsided one way or the other, you won't have the right mix and balance of uses in that overall area. But to my knowledge, the city's only done very limited like city proactive annexations. They're really waiting for the property owners to come in. And yes, sometimes they have very creative ways of connecting to the city.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Any other comments or questions for our executive director from the commissioners? Not seeing any. Well, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
We will move on to our next agenda item, which is other business, chair's business. I have none. Old business, I don't believe there is any. Anyone have any new business for us? All right, not seeing any. We will move on to committee reports. Any committee reports? I have a committee report, so I'll go ahead and give it. The TPO board met on February 6th, Tuesday, a special meeting of the TPO board to discuss the updates to the 2050 Plans Needs Assessment for Goods Movement and the Hillsborough Truck Route Plan updating. That was passed unanimously without an issue. And then we also looked at the Tampa Bay MPO board merger apportionment principles. We had some pretty good conversation about what the board size should be for a merged TPO or MPO entity, what the role of various transportation operators should be on a merged entity, and the kind of feeling that the board gave to put forward in the TMA meetings is that they wanted to see somewhere around 20 to 25 members on a merged regional MPO, that the airport, the Expressway Authority, and the Port Authority should be voting members on any sort of merged regional MPO, and that apportionment should come off the top. So those 3 members would be taken from the 25 number, and then after that, they wanted to see something like 12 members from Hillsborough County, and then Pasco and Pinellas divvy up the other 10 that would be leftish, and that's kind of the direction that they gave for discussions in the TMA meeting. That was about it, and their only other major discussions were that they want mostly elected officials to sit on the new regional entity, so that any sorts of NGOs and those sorts of entities wouldn't necessarily be voting members on a new merged board, which may or may not impact us. I'm not quite sure how that's going to all fall out, but we may possibly lose voting membership on a merged MPO. So obviously none of this is in any sort of hard print yet. It's still all at the discussion stage, but this is kind of what was going on at that special TPO board meeting. Any questions or any other committee reports, meeting reports? Not seeing any, then that's all we have for right now. So I guess we will see everybody at 5:30 for our first public hearing. And this meeting is adjourned at 4:30 p.m.